I said Meghan Markle is, of course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
Meghan Markle was handed a $100 million Netflix deal, a global spotlight, and the kind of comeback most actors would kill for. And then the comedians got hold of her. Jimmy Carr, Chris Rock, Bill Maher, Kelly Osborne, one after another, they turned her into the easiest punchline in show business. And the crowds have not stopped roaring since.
I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family! It's the royal family! They're the original racists. They invented colonialism. That's like marrying into the Budweiser family.
This is not the usual celebrity ribbing. It is a full-blown roast, and every joke keeps landing for one deeply uncomfortable reason. They keep being true. So what did she actually do to earn all of it? Stay with me, because by the end, it is going to make brutal, undeniable sense. The $1 Million Promise. Here is where the story starts, and you have to understand the size of the promise first. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle walked away from the royal family, they walked straight into one of the richest content deals ever handed to two people with no track record of making anything. $100 million from Netflix over 5 years, a separate podcast deal with Spotify, a reported $20 million on top. Their 2022 Netflix documentary landed as one of the platform's biggest doc launches ever, and for a moment, it looked like the machine was going to work. The world was told this was the Hollywood comeback of the decade, and there was just one small problem sitting underneath all of it, one nobody wanted to say out loud. You cannot stage a comeback if you were never really at the top in the first place. The Bag and the Pineapple. So, the wave from that documentary broke, and it was time to actually deliver something. What she delivered was a lifestyle series called With Love, Meghan. Cooking, gardening, hosting tips. And here is the exact moment the internet stopped being polite. A woman paid a fortune to demonstrate how to slice a pineapple and, in the bit that became legend, to take a snack out of one bag and move it into a second bag, then carefully label the new bag. Even though the first bag already had a perfectly good label on it, people watched that on a loop, not because it helped them, but because they could not believe it was real. And then the numbers came in, and the numbers are where the comeback quietly turns into a horror story. Number 3, 183. Watch what happens, because this is the number that changes the whole story. The show landed in Netflix's global top 10 for exactly 1 week, pulling 2.6 million views over its opening weekend, and then it fell off a cliff. Not a slope, a cliff. Almost everyone who was ever going to watch it watched it in those first few days, and after that, near silence. So, when Netflix published its own What We Watched report covering the first half of 2025, everyone braced for the number, and the number was worse than anyone guessed. The show that was supposed to change her whole career came in at number 383, with 5.3 million views total. Number 383, not 3, not 30. Say it slowly, because I need you to hold on to it, and it is going to keep coming back. The quiet drumbeat under everything the comedians are about to do to her. The quiet downgrade. It gets worse before it gets to them. Fewer than a third of critics gave the thing a passing grade. And in the cruelest twist of all, reruns of her old scripted show Suits, off the air for years, quietly outperformed her brand new original. That $100 million Netflix deal, the one that was going to remake everything, it got quietly downgraded. No victory lap, no triumphant renewal. Just a slow, embarrassed shrinking that nobody at the company seemed eager to talk about. Quick thing before we go on, because this next stretch is the good part. If you are enjoying this, hit subscribe right now. It genuinely helps more than you would think. And you do not want to miss what is coming, because the single hardest hit of this entire saga lands later. And it comes from someone who actually knew Harry personally. Trust me on that one. Now, back to it. Why the joke started. Because that number, 383, did something more dangerous than embarrass her. It handed every comedian alive a loaded gun. For years, these two had built one identity and one identity only. Victims. Wronged, hounded, misunderstood. It was the theme of the Oprah sit-down, the theme of the documentary, the theme of every headline they ever generated. And here's the thing about a victim story. It only works for as long as the room feels sorry for you. The second the room starts laughing instead, the whole act collapses, because you cannot be tragic and ridiculous at the same time. Jimmy Carr and the steering wheel. Which brings us right back to Jimmy Carr and that flat, unbothered shopping list voice. Carr does not rant, and he does not need to. He mused almost gently that Harry had spent his entire life with other people making all the big decisions for him. And then, the very second he finally broke free, he turned around and handed the steering wheel straight to someone else. He suggested, deadpan, barely looking up, that this did not really look like a monarchy anymore. It was starting to look like a reality show with better hats. And you can hear the room do exactly what Carr wants it to do, that low collective groan that tips over into a roar, the sound a crowd makes when someone says the thing they were all thinking. But here is what you need to notice, because it is the whole craft of it. Carr never lets the audience off the hook with a neat little button. He leaves the wound wide open. Because that steering wheel line is not the punchline at all. It is the setup, and it points straight at the one question nobody in that family wants asked out loud. If Harry is not holding the wheel anymore, then who is? The worldwide privacy tour. That question drags us straight into the thing these two say more than any other word on earth. Privacy. They want privacy. They cannot bear the attention. And somehow, they keep making very, very sure nobody stops talking about them. South Park took a flamethrower to that, with an entire episode built around a prince and his wife on what the show called a worldwide privacy tour, screaming for privacy through megaphones while marching in front of every camera on the planet. And once you see it framed that way, you genuinely cannot unsee it. Bill Maher put his finger on the same nerve, on the exact contradiction sitting at the heart of the whole act. You cannot spend years insisting the attention was unbearable, and then write an entire memoir about how desperately you want to be left alone, and then make sure that memoir is stacked in every airport on Earth. A whole book about craving quiet, promoted louder than anything else that year. Sit with that, because it is the tell, and it points to the deal that humiliated them worse than any comedy stage did. The grifters. That deal was Spotify. $20 million reported. In return, they produced one series and a single holiday special. 12 episodes, then silence. And when it collapsed, the harshest verdict did not come from a comedian at all. It came from the executive whose company signed the check. Bill Simmons said out loud that if he could rename the podcast they should have launched together, he would call it The Grifters. Not a rival, not a critic, the man on the other side of the table, on the record, calling them grifters. When the person paying you decides publicly that you were a bad investment, there is genuinely nowhere left to hide. And that exact idea of a bad investment is what sets up the hardest hit I promised you. Kelly Osborne's sledgehammer. Because it came from Kelly Osborne, and Kelly moved in those circles. She knew Harry. She had every reason on earth to soften it, and she did not soften a thing. Her point was surgical. You were handed the entire world, every major contract, every platform, all of it. And you did not deliver because there was nothing there to deliver. Read that again. Nothing there to deliver. Remember number 383? That is Kelly's whole argument in 3 digits. All the hype, all the chances, and still that number. Then she said the thing that went quiet in the room. That here was a man who once wore a Nazi costume and was now trying to relaunch himself as a moral authority, lecturing everyone else on how to be a better person. The distance between those two versions of the same man is the entire joke, and she just measured it out loud. Chris Rock kills the room. Now, if Kelly went the hardest, the biggest went to the biggest stage of all. Chris Rock, on his own Netflix special, standing in front of a packed live crowd, walked right up to the couple's single most protected grievance and kicked the door in. He refused to accept the framing that the royal family was defined by racism, suggesting instead that a lot of what got labeled that way sounded to him more like the ordinary friction any family has with its in-laws. And you can hear the whole thing happen on the recording, in real time. A pause, then the laugh, Then the room genuinely roars, that full-throated crowd sound that means he has landed it, and everyone knows he has landed it. And here is the part that should terrify anyone in the business of being sympathetic. The second the biggest comedian on the planet turns your biggest grievance into a bit and the crowd goes with him, something breaks that you cannot ever glue back together. Because once the room is laughing at the wound, you are never getting the sympathy back. Not from that crowd, not from the next one. Never. The original Meghan. Here is a detail that makes the whole thing feel less modern than it looks. The comedians kept reaching back for a comparison, and they kept landing on Wallis Simpson, the American divorcee whose romance with a king once shook the monarchy to its foundations. Different faces, same script, a story the palace had already survived once before. And the cruelest comparison of all was not about Meghan at all. It was the two brothers. The most ruthless voices in comedy somehow had one warm, gentle story about Prince William, and enough material for an entire special about Harry. That contrast tells you everything, and it explains why even the comedians you would least expect eventually turned. Even the allies turned. Take John Oliver, British, imported, the kind of guy you would bet on being sympathetic. And instead, you can watch his patience visibly drain the more he actually heard of their side of it. That became the pattern nobody could break, the trap they built for themselves. Every single attempt to explain the grievance only deepened it. The more they talked, the worse it played, until their own natural allies were rolling their eyes. The verdict. So here is where all of it lands, and here is the part I need you to actually take with you. Being a victim is not a personality, and it is definitely not a career. You can survive a Hollywood scandal. You can survive brutal headlines. What you cannot survive is the quiet moment the crowd decides you were never really that special in the first place, and then starts to laugh. And judging by every stage from Los Angeles to London, from Carr's flat delivery to Rock's roaring Netflix room, that decision has already been made, and it is not being unmade. A brand built entirely on grievance can absolutely command attention. It can pull headlines and clicks for years. It just can never, ever command respect. And respect is the only currency that was ever going to matter here. The comedians did not destroy anything. They did not have to. They only said out loud what number 383 had already been whispering in silence the whole time. So, now it is your turn, and I actually want to know. Drop it in the comments. Who landed the hardest hit of this entire saga? Was it Jimmy Carr and that shopping list voice? Chris Rock on the Netflix stage with a room full of people roaring? Or Kelly Osborne, the one who actually knew them? Pick one and defend it. And if this made you laugh even once, do me the favor and hit like and subscribe, because next time we are counting down every single country that has quietly told the Sussexes no thanks. And one of them is genuinely going to surprise you. This story is not going anywhere. Not anytime soon.